Hello, everyone. This is Peter Geovanes. I am an editorial board member at CDO Magazine, and it is my pleasure to have time today with Jonathan Paul. Jonathan, would you mind giving yourself a quick introduction?
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, CDO Magazine. Happy to be here. Really appreciate the time. My name is Jonathan Paul, director within our IT division here at Fifth Third Bank, head of our data governance and AI governance, as well as technology deployment for artificial intelligence, specifically generative AI. Been at the bank 18 years, variety of different business units among the bank, and now happy to be part of the AI journey here at Fifth Third Bank.
Well, let's get started with that. Let me hear about your AI journey at Fifth Third. What's been happening over the last 18 months, and has it been as crazy as it has for other people?
It's been like blast off in a rocket ship, Peter. We started as a lot of it. We got wind of generative AI. What is it all about? Hear about the possibility. Where do you start? The analogy I like to use is it's like a Rubik's Cube. You pick up a Rubik's Cube for the first time, all different colors, different size. Where do you start? This is one of those cases where we have the Rubik's Cube. We don't have the YouTube videos to show us how to solve this. So we're making turns, we're twisting, we're trying to solve each of these one face at a time. When we look back about 18, 24 months ago, we want to start this journey off right. We really went out and we sourced best class talent to bring into our organization from existing data scientists, folks who had experiences with model development and AI machine learning. We've coupled that with our intelligent automation space to really begin a cohort of AI innovation. We knew, being a bank, highly regulated institution, new technology emerging, how do we harness this, get our arms around it, and start off this journey right? We let this team really incubate in a really closed off environment to understand what is the art of the possible. What is generative AI? How do we use this? How is this different than AI machine learning we're using today? We utilize a lot of natural language processing too for customer chatbots. There's limitations. Where is this going to take us? Answers to all these questions and more as we start to unravel and try to solve that Rubik's Cube one square at a time.
And how did you get started? Did you have specific business cases in mind that you wanted to kind of champion with your stakeholders? Or was it more, as you kind of alluded to, you didn't have a rubric, right? There was no instruction guide. Was it kind of playing mad scientist and testing hypotheses and then going back to your stakeholders saying, I think this is possible?
Absolutely. The first 12 months is definitely art of the possible. Let's just see what's under the hood. Do we have the right expertise to harness the power of this? Do we understand the inner workings of it? Such a volatile environment too. How do we understand where the technology is at today? Where is it going to be in 24 months or more? And how does that actually align with business cases? And so that first 12 months is really a lot of strategic leadership on here's the capabilities. Here's some really neat things that it does in a vacuum, kind of showcase those. A lot of this too is getting folks comfortable with this type of technology. It's new. You hear about it, you read about it, but until you kind of start to touch and feel it and see it in your environment, you don't really maybe understand the full nature of the grasp that it can have. So we started showcasing digital avatars to our leadership, to some folks within our organization, our learning and development teams. Here's what we can do with some of these things: speech to text models, text to speech models, right? And really start off with some simple use cases that really showcase, okay, here's some easy to understand, some very tangible outcomes that we can help drive. And we started to showcase those, build up, we did about 5 to 10 small use cases, just again, in a vacuum, non-production environment, just to kind of see where this would go. After that 12-month period, it was really, let's really get serious on a strategic roadmap for implementing generative AI in strategic places across the organization. So that 5 to 10 use cases really became about 10 serious use cases with ROI attached to them. And we whittled those down to about 4. Within the 4, it then came to 2. And within those 2, it's really off to the races on how can we start to, within our research and development environment, string together the necessary models to form a path to production to realize that ROI in a more chunked out way. So what I mean by that is we're going to attach our ROI to more of a VC funding model. We're not just going to throw a whole bunch of money at artificial intelligence for the sake of it right off the bat. It's going to have to be aligned to strategic business outcomes. And that value is going to come by the value saved, just the same that we do with any intelligent automation or lean process automation too. So the value that's being pulled out of the AI technology on these business cases actually goes back into the business model to help bring in and fill out more business use cases.
And when we talk about business use cases, can you kind of segment too? Are you seeing it? Is it more efficiency gains? Is it competitive advantage? Is it customer satisfaction? Maybe all of the above. Is that kind of what's driving this innovation as well?
It's all of the above. Absolutely. I'd say, being a bank, we have to keep the customers at the center. So ethical AI and safe and responsible deployment is number one by far. So we want to take a couple of different approaches, right? We want to make it feel and ease the experience within our customers. So definitely looking at things of how our customers interact with us as a banking organization. So we have our Genie chatbot. It's a natural language process backed bot in-house that we've built out. How do we continue to add intense to this? How do we continue to build this out? Maybe one day it becomes, attached to a large language model. But those are the steps that we want to take, right? Kind of more that crawl, walk, run to get even more voice of the customer feedback. Hey, is this actually something that's providing you a lot of benefit, right? Our Genie chatbot is 24/7, right? Any point in time, folks can go out, and the more capabilities that we build there, the more self-service it becomes to our customers for individuals that would like that. When we look at it on the business case, it's really practical deployment of AI in cases where maybe we've tried things like traditional intelligent automation, traditional lean processing, and we just couldn't cross some of the hurdles or barriers that those limitations on whatever technology we had at the time couldn't come over. A great example of this is in the OCR space, right? So we have a lot of documents that come into our institution. If we think of like loan remittances, we do business with other large financial institutions likewise. And these come in a variety of forms. There's no static format. We almost have people you could think of in a letter opener pulling these out and reading these by hand. What does this say? Is there a rate change? Is there money remitted? Right. And you can extrapolate this by the thousands, right? When you start to introduce things like OCR, so we've made some leaps and bounds there. It's no longer the person with the letter opener, right? They're coming in. We're doing some reading. The limitations on that, though, we found where a large language model can come in and actually format those in a consistent output into like a JSON format. And then we can use intelligent automation to pick that up and then ingest that back in the file. So we're seeing leaps and bounds where the time to prototype, test, and deploy has exponentially shrunk in these cases too. So that the use case I just talked about, that one, right, where we're just more of a, hey, art of the possible. That was about 6 hours worth of development within our large language model playground to take that from unformatted, unstructured letters into a highly structured letter that can be ingested into a system.
And I love that term, art of the possible, and I'm going to adopt that for my own use. But when I hear that, I kind of think that also means part of your job is being that evangelist and being that maybe even educator within the bank. Again, sharing it may be a wild idea, or maybe it was a wild idea 6 months ago, but with the tools we have and now the capabilities that we've built up in the bank, these become feasible. Is that part of your job too? Is kind of maybe even going back to your stakeholders, having a conversation 6 months and putting something on hold and now saying it might be time to dust that idea off?
You're 100% correct. As much as we can sit here and talk about all the fun and need and ideas with AI, I'd be remiss if I didn't talk about the other side of our business, which is the AI governance, right? And so from an AI strategy perspective, our technology deployment is shown basically side by side with our maturity of our AI governance. And that is intentional because we do not want our AI technology deployment to outpace our governance, right? Again, I go back to safe, responsible deployment, understanding the technology, tying it to actual business use cases, and doing that in a really safe, responsible environment. The governance side is about that. It's that little bit of that crawl, walk, run. How do we understand this technology? How do we get our arms around it? Traditional IT governance and traditional even risk management is struggling with this right to this day. There's no playbook to go out and say, hey, here's the core set of standard controls. Or we think of like NIST frameworks and things like that. Certainly starting to come along. There's guardrails and there's some guidelines from NIST and other organizations that help us get there. But it's a joint education piece, right? So part of what we've stood up is AI working groups to help bring in our legal, compliance, risk, technology, strategy teams to help walk through this together. So we can have a common, really, nomenclature. How are we talking about this? How do we understand this? So we can go out to the rest of the organization and really kind of sell if we want to do something within the realm of AI, generative AI, that is either customer facing or something in the ground that's going to be, a lot of lean operation that we can pull out. What's the first step that we can go in and say, we feel confident that there's security controls, the architecture is sound. We can understand the input, output and have confidence to then take it to the next level and start to interact with a more serious purpose.
Great session. But thank you again for your time. It was my pleasure hosting this.
I would love to be back and share even more, and can't wait to see where we're going to go. Thank you, CDO Magazine. Thank you, Peter.